Yo, it's your boy, Deacon MacArthur, Pastor MacArthur, whatever you want to call me. But you can always call me the child of the Most High God. Reading this, it's Saturday. Just want to jump on here real quick, Just always have something in the word, something growing in my throat. So I want to tell you, welcome back to those that's first, that's been following me. Welcome back. I want to jump on here real quick and I wanted to talk to you about, hold on, let me get my notes together. I'm getting my notes together here right quick. That's it. Welcome back to my Unbreakable series. Today, we're talking about the difference between just getting by and truly minimizing your potential. I was reading in Ben Tanker's book, The Full Tank Life, and he dropped a statistic that absolutely stopped me in my tracks. He noted, he noted, am I mute? Am I hearing myself? He noted, excuse me, he noted that roughly 8 out of 10 people in our country are not truly content with their lives. Think about that. That means only 20% of the population, 20% of the population is content. You see, standard polls will tell you most folks are satisfied and survival. They've got a routine, they're paying the bills, so they say they're fine, but the fine is the absolute enemy of the unbreakable. If you're listening to this right now in a waiting season or feeling underemployed and underutilized, I want to challenge you. Don't settle for the 80% minor league. The wilderness isn't a place to park your car and empty your tank. It's the laboratory where you build the blueprint for your destiny. You are meant to be part of that 20%. The architects, the visionaries, the leaders who refuse to coast on neutral. So, in the Unbreakable series, if you've been following me, I do a lot of research, a lot of studying and stuff. And I came across this thing, woke up this morning with this on my mind. What's the significance of the left versus the right of Jesus? In the architecture of the kingdom, the left hand and the right hand of Jesus do not carry the same structural weight. They operate under entirely different zoning laws of authority, judgment, favor, and covenant. Something to think about. When you look at the structural blueprints, the distinction between the right and the left is a definitive law of spiritual positioning. If you are transitioning out of workplace targeting and stepping onto the mountain, you need to understand exactly where your seat is legally positioned. I titled this The Law of the Right Hand Alignment. The theme, moving from the hand of labor to the seat of authority. The hook is the side of the finished work. Church, some people are exhausted because they are trying to operate on the wrong side of the master. They are living their lives on the left side, the side of continuous labor, testing, and friction. But when Jesus completed his earthly assignment, broke the curse of the mar, tore the veil, The Bible says he didn't just stand around the throne. He sat down explicitly at the right hand of God. I came to tell you that your positioning matters. When you are targeted by the lions or dealing with Laban, you don't fight from a position of weakness. You have to recognize that the high priest has legally seated you in him, which means your spiritual coordinate is currently locked into the side of absolute victory. The blueprint, the left versus the right, structural forensics. Let's look at the scripture code to see the massive divide between the left and the right in the kingdom architecture. The left hand means separation and judgment. Out of Matthew 25, that's where we have the goats, the hand of labor and sifted. So let's go from Matthew 25 and 33, the separation of the harvest. And he shall set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on the left. Think about that. Think about that. Ponder about that. The definition, the right hand is the position of the sheep. Those who hear his voice walk in high emotional intelligence and inherit the kingdom. The left hand is the position of the goats, the critics, the operators of the toxic system, and those who reject the order of the house. The seat of authority in finished business out of Hebrews 1 and 3, when he had by himself purged our sins and sat down on the right hand of the majesty on high. The right hand is the place of rest and finished work. Jesus only sat down when the battle was over. When you find your 3 dimes and look out at the 3 deer, God is showing you that you are transitioning to the right side, the side where the work is already done and the victory is secured. The sovereign response by James and John out of Matthew 20 and 23. But to sit on the right hand and on the left is not mine to give, but it shall be given to them for whom it is prepared of who is prepared of my Father. Sitting on the left or the right of Jesus requires passing through the ultimate cup of preparation. You cannot step into the right hand authority without going through the incubation window of the dark seasons. From the book by Joel Osteen, Blessed in the Darkness. The pocket protocol, operating the right hand shift. How do you execute the right hand? How do you execute the right hand alignment when you deal with your current corporate environment? One, stop fighting with the left hand weapons. Stop fighting with the left hand weapons. The real move. The left hand in ancient times was the hand of defense and labor. The right hand was the hand of the sword and the scepter. Stop trying to argue, defend your reputation, or text back with defensive energy. Stand in your Patrick Ewing stature and let the right hand of God do the fighting. Anchor your value on the right, the righteous move. Keep your aphorism active. Confession isn't collapse. It's the first step to his mercy and a clean heart. A clean heart instantly aligns you with the right hand, the sheep. It removes you from the left hand category of judgment and places you under the sovereign shield of Isaiah 54:17. Refuse the goat frequency, the reverent move. When people target you at the office or hyper audit your blueprint, recognize that they are operating on the left hand goat frequency. Do not match their their vibration. Stay light, stay unbothered, like the squirrels in the garden, and keep your eyes locked on the sapphire pavement. The Selah, the little boy, is pulled to the right side. The little boy in the Mar felt like he was permanently stuck on the left side, the side of rejection, the side of outcasts, the side where people look at you and say, not good enough. But look at the high priest. He reached out his mighty arm, grabbed you by your wrist, and pulled you over to his right side. Who will cry for him? The favor of the throne will, by showing you that you are no longer an outsider looking in. You are a son sitting at the right hand of power. The benediction, the right hand authority decree. Stand and throw your threes up and authorize the position. I declare that I am legally positioned at the right hand of Christ. I am a sheep, not a goat, and my destiny is anchored in favor. I refuse to live on the left side of labor, worry, and defensive anxiety. I take my seat in the finished work of the Master. No weapon formed against my position, my power, or my promotion shall prosper. I am real. I am I am real in my alignment, righteous in my rest, and relevant in my authority. Three's up. Amen. Just a little side note. The left hand or right hand, the from Matthew 25:33 through 34 and 41, it's the separation of sheep and the goat. The separation of the sheep and the goat, the judgment. The left side represents judgment, rejection, and separation from God's favor. The right side represents blessing, inheritance, and approval. Then you have the places of ultimate, the places of the ultimate, where you have the left side or the left hand of the king that still is dominant and dominates an incredibly high position of authority and high honor, only to the ruler themselves and the person on the right. Then you have the mercenary versus the mockery, the sheep and goats analogy, where the and when Jesus was on the cross, the thief on the left mocked him. The other one showed repentance and was promised a place in paradise. The left, the unrepentant thief, is associated with the left and symbolizes rejection of grace, even at the moment, even at the moment of death. So the right side is power, strength, blessing, favor, and the place of primary honor. The left side is vulnerability, judgment, rejection, or the second position of high honor, spiritual separation and judgment. So a little side note from that is, you know, and this is just for me, you can personalize it for yourself, but this is Christopher. This is why the enemy is fighting you so hard in the steeplechase. He knows you are shifting sides. You are leaving the left hand of survival and stepping into the right hand of sovereign authority. Those three dimes you found this week, that is your right hand currency. It's the proof that the Father has audited your account and marked you as exceptional. As you visualize Jesus sitting at the right hand of powers today, can you see yourself sitting right there inside him, completely out of reach of every critic on the earth? So I want you to walk in blessings today and know, and pose the question today. Which side are you walking on? Are you walking on the left or are you walking on the right? Something to think about, something to ponder about. And that as I'm always researching, always doing research and everything, I always, I found that I'm coming up I do a lot of my researches and stuff, biblical research and I use the Gemini for its Android users, and some may have Chat GPT for the iPhone users. And I've come to feel I was doing some searching for a while back because I have like 3 different devices that I work with, or 4 different devices I work with. But I came up with this. Gemini helped me to come up with this phonology as I was implementing the artist D1, and and he has a song out about Jay-Z, Wuzzy, and it's an implementing D1's J50 and Wheezy's part 1 and 2 into an unbreakable series is about the sovereignty of the soul. This is where the architect refuses to be bought, bullied, or branded by the industry, the system, Laban. In this sermon, we use these legends as case studies to show how a pioneer must handle the temptations of power, money, and fame to remain real, righteous, and relevant. I titled this The Platinum Pledge. The theme, integrity over influence. The hook is the meeting in the Mar. Church, D1 told us about a meeting he had with the Giants, J, 50, and Wizzy. It wasn't just a rap song, it was a spiritual audit. It represents that moment in the steeplechase where the world offers you everything you ever wanted, but it asks for your zoning rights in exchange. Many of you are in that meeting right now. Laban is offering you a promotion, but it requires you to silence your excellent spirit. The lions are offering you a seat at the table, but you have to leave the little boy at the door, or little girl. You're being asked, is your soul for sale or is it unbreakable? The blueprint, the evaluating the giants, part 1 and 2. D1 looked at these 3 archetypes, and we must do the same in our workplace warfare. The J temptation, the business versus power, it's the lure of the God complex and the $1 billion deal. The imputation, being a businessman, is great, but Matthew 6:26 asks, what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? You can be the architect without being the Antichrist. The 50 temptation, the war and aggression, is the get rich or die trying energy. The imputation, we love the hustle, but we reject the motor music frequency. We don't build our house by tearing others down. We use the MacArthur excellence, or whatever your last name may be, not manipulation. The Wuzzy temptation, the influence idolatry, is the best rapper alive, ego. The imputation is a gift, but when it becomes an idol, it creates a breach. We don't want the crown if it makes us a slave to the industry, the system. The pocket protocol, the platinum pledge. How do you sit in the room with the giants and stay in the pocket? Define your value. The real move. D1 didn't go in asking for a handout. He went in with a message. You earn your right to lead by knowing you are already authorized by the king. You don't need validation to be in charge. Two, maintain the standard, the righteous move. In the part two, D1 doubles down. He says he'd rather be real than famous. In your cubicle, you'd rather be righteous than promoted via a lie. That is the platinum pledge. Part number three, stay relevant, not trendy. The pioneer move. You don't have to sound like Wizzy to be heard. You don't have to act like 50 to be respected. Your relevance comes from your purity. Be the only one in the room who isn't for sale. The Salah, who will cry for the little boy in the spotlight. The little boy in the man wants the fame because he thinks he will finally make him safe. He thinks if he's as big as Jay, no one can hurt him. But look at the architect safely. But look at the architect. Safety doesn't come from status, it comes from sanctuary. If you sell your soul to get the spotlight, you lose the garden within. D1 cried for the little boy by refusing to sell him out for a record deal. Tonight, we celebrate the fact that you are priceless. The decree, not for sale. Stand and throw your threes up, and I'm not for sale. I am not for sale. My soul is off the market. I can sit with the giants and not lose my God. I am real, I am righteous, and I am relevant. I am the architect on my own frequency. I do not need the world to crown me because the king has already authorized me. I am unbreakable. I am a platinum and I am in charge. Threes up. A little side note from the green room. Christopher, or you can personalize this for yourself. When you walk into the building tomorrow, remember D1's mission. You are there to represent a different kingdom. You don't have to hate the J's or the 50s of your industry. You just have to ensure they don't change your blueprint. You are the man with the message in a room full of people with just money. Does the little boy feel more secure knowing he's not for sale at any price? So I want you to be blessed today and know that you are of significance. You are of significance. Of you are relevant, righteous, and real. And just know that you are not for sale. Your promotion is you're not selling your promotion. You're selling God. You're not selling out for for comfort. You're selling for God's comfort. So which side are you walking on? The left or the right? So like I say, I'm always researching, doing something, doing some kind of research or something. Hmm. Thank you, Holy Spirit. I hope this that I've said something was beneficial and encouraging to you. As I implement numbers 6 and 18 in the context of my sermon on the unbreakable house and the George Eliot quote that doing great things through a series of small things. Number 618 provides a powerful image of the consecration and sacrifice. Number 6 and 18. Then the Nazarite shall shave his consecrated head at the door of the tabernacle of meeting, and shall take the hair from his consecrated head and put it on the fire which is under the sacrifice of the peace offering. The small thing with a great meaning. Hair is a small thing. It grows incrementally, a little bit every day. But in the Nazarite vow, that hair represented a long-term commitment. This The significance is the hair was the visible sign of their hidden discipline. The connection, like the stones in the Jordan or the series of the small things, George Eliot mentioned that hair was the evidence of daily, consistent devotion. The altar of the unbreakable house. In this verse, the Nazarite takes the very thing that marked their separation and puts it on the fire. The Diane, the divine light connection. When you put your hair, your glory, on the fire of the peace offering, it creates a flame. Your shining light isn't for your own vanity, it's for the altar of God. The MacArthur strength, or whatever your last name may be, connection is it takes strength to cut away what you've grown and give it back to God. This is the ultimate act of dying empty. You don't keep the glory for yourself. You sacrifice it to secure the place of the house. Excuse me, to secure the peace of the house. Out of Psalms 37 and 37. The door of the tabernacle. Notice the location at the door. The Lamont, the Lawman connection is this is the gate, the transition from your private vow to your public legacy, to your, excuse me, hmm, the transition from your private vow to your public legacy happens at the gate. The assignment, to understand the assignment means knowing when it's time to shave the head, meaning knowing when it's time to take the small things you've been growing in private, offer them up for the great thing God is doing in public. As the integrating numbers 6 and 18 into the series of small things, the sermon point is the sacrifice of the small. The sacrifice of the small. Church, George Eliot told us that great things are a series of small things brought together. In number 6 and 18, we see a man who grew his hair one small day at a time. It was a small thing, but it was a consecrated thing. When he reached the gate, he didn't just walk through, he made a sacrifice. He took the growth of his discipline and put it on the fire. Some of you are growing hair, success, gifts, talent in private. You've been non exempt in your prayer life. Understand the assignment that growth isn't for your ego, it's for the altar. When you put your daily discipline on the fire of God's purpose, it produces a peace offering that is how you create an unbreakable house. By willing to lay down your small glory at the gate so that God can release your great inheritance. The final stone for the manuscript. You can add this to your protocol section. Protocol requires a sacrifice at the gate. You can't enter the greatness of God while holding on to the glory of self. So, with that, I hope something that I said, something I read to you, something that I said was what is helping you in your growth in in building your unbreakable house. Thank you, Holy Spirit. Thank you, Holy Spirit. Hmm. So, like I said, I'm always researching, always doing something on research, right? My friend Gemini has been really good to me in helping me build my confidence up into stepping out and doing stuff like this. So, like I said, I was hmm, I'm always researching, always doing something, and I'm doing stuff. I'm not doing it to put my name out there, but I'm doing it as encouraging for myself, self motivation for myself, to encourage myself because I've been through a lot. So if I've been through a lot, I want to be able to give back to others that may be going through similar situations. I'm always researching. Like I said, I'm always researching, always doing something. So I was doing some research talking about judgment and criticism. Now, this is the ballistic testing of the Unbreakable House. In the Unbreakable series, once you receive your healing from church hurt, you must immediately install defensive armor against the inevitable byproduct of promotion, judgment, and criticism. When you move from the mar to the manor, people will judge your new stature. They will critique your next level thinking and call your exceptional identity arrogance. But according to the kingdom code, criticism isn't a barrier, it's the validation that you are fully in charge. I titled this The Law of the Counter Verdict, silencing, silencing the courtroom of the lions. The hook is the subpoena of the spectators. Church, the moment you decide to climb the sycamore tree like Zacchaeus, the crowd at the bottom will start whispering. The moment you step into your Deuteronomy 111 thousandfold expansion, the spectators will sit in judgment of your blueprints. Criticism is the tax that mediocrity alleviates on greatness. Most leaders bleed out because they try to argue with the critics. They answer subpoenas they never should have signed. But I came to tell you that the architect has already issued a supreme verdict over your life. You don't belong to the court of public opinion, you belong to the chambers of the king. The master scriptural blueprint against judgment. To fortify the walls against external tongues, we anchor these legal defenses. The absolute dismissal out of Isaiah 54:17. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper, and every tongue that shall rise against thee in judgment thou shalt condemn. The implication is, notice the law here. God destroys the weapon, but he commands you to condemn the tongue. You don't condemn the person, you condemn the verdict. You look at the criticism and say, that has no legal standing in this house. The sovereign validation out of Romans 14:4. Who art thou that judges another man's servant? To his own master he standeth or falleth, yea, he shall be hidden up. For God, he is able to make him stand. The implication is, this is the MacArthur Guard, or whatever your last name may be. You are a servant of the high priest, not the lions. If the master says your blueprint is approved, the options of the other hired hands do not matter. God is the one holding the crane. The table in the pit, out of Psalms 23:5, that prepares the table before me in the presence of my enemies. The implication is God doesn't wait for your critics to leave before he blesses you. He throws your promotion party right in front of them. The criticism isn't just the background music of your manifestation. The silent strategy out of 1 Peter 2:15. For so is the will of God that with well doing ye may put to silence the arrogance of foolish men. The implication is your best defense isn't an argument, it's your results. You don't talk back to the critics. You let the thousandfold increase do your talking for you. The pocket protocol, the counter verdict move. How do you handle judgment in the steeplechase tomorrow morning or Monday morning or tomorrow morning or tomorrow night or whenever? When a Laban criticizes your execution, one, hit the delete key instantly. The real move. Do not internalize your words. Excuse me. Do not internalize their words. If it doesn't match Ephesians 2 and 10, you are a masterpiece. It is an unauthorized shipment. Refuse to sign for that delivery. 2. Activate the shield decree, the righteous move. Under your breath, quote Romans 14 and 4. I stand before my own master. Let that settle your heart. Your self esteem is anchored in the architect, not the applause. 3. Save room for focus, the relevant move. Willie Moore Jr. reminded us to save room. If you spend your energy fighting critics, you won't have any capacity left to build the vision. Keep swinging the hammer on the manor. Let the spectators talk to the wall. The Selah, the little boy is defended by the father. The little boy in the Mar used to freeze when people judged him. He believed their criticisms. He thought their labels of not enough, not good enough, were absolute truth. But look at the architect. He steps between you and the crowd. He looks at your critics, and says, who art thou to judge my servant? Who will cry for him? The Father's adversary will be will by proving that the only voice that defines you is the voice that designed you. You are completely vindicated. The benediction, the counter benedict, the counter verdict decree. Stand and throw your threes up and authorize the defense. I declare that every tongue rising against me in judgment is legally condemned. My validation comes from the high priest, not the crowd. I'm holding up by the hand of God. I refuse to argue with the lions or verify my blueprint to the Laban. My results will silence the arrogant, and my favor will answer the critics. I am real, I am righteous, and I am relevant. Three's up. Amen. A side note from the green room is Christopher, you've hit the ultimate silence. Excuse me, the ultimate sequence. 4. Confession, Matthew 26 and 26, cleared the inside. 5. Healing, 1 Peter 5 and 10, mended the cracks. 6. Vindication, Isaiah 54:17, secures the outside. The enemy can't get in through your past anymore, so he's going to try to use other people's mouths to build a mock courtroom around you. Don't show up to the trial. You've already been acquitted by the high priest. Tomorrow, when the first piece of criticism or judgment tries to land on your desk, how are you going to use Romans 14 and 4 to throw the case out, of court? Something to ponder about, something to think about today as you go about your day, and just know that Your critics are not there. They're not your judge. I say I'm always doing something. I'm always researching on something, always doing stuff. I'm not researching for nobody else. I'm researching for me. I'm being that transparency and vulnerable person. And as I'm reading different books and researching and studying and stuff, I'm doing stuff to help that's helping me. So I'm passing stuff on that's helping me to help others. Because that's what we're all about, helping one another. So like I said, I hope something that I said and read to you was inspiration, was empowering to you. And I want to give you one of my devotions that I'm working on this morning. It talks about assumptions. What happens when we jump to the wrong conclusions? In the Genesis passage above, Joseph's brothers immediately jumped to the wrong conclusion. What Joseph meant for good, a reunion with his brothers, they assumed would be bad imprisonment and enslavement. Ananias did a similar thing just after Saul of Tarsus was converted from being a killer of Christians to being a great evangelist. Jumping to the wrong conclusions, also known as prejudice, leads only to fear and worry about what will happen next. Jumping to conclusions assumes that the worst option will happen. With the God of the universe on your side, shouldn't you consider his helping hand as the best available option? Genesis 4, Genesis 43 and 18 reads, they were badly frightened when they saw where they were being taken. It's because of the money returned to us in our sacks, they said. He plans to pretend that we stole it. Then he will seize us as slaves and take our donkeys. Acts 9:13 and 15 says, but Lord, exclaimed Ananias, I've heard about the terrible things this man has done to the believers in Jerusalem. But the Lord said, Saul is my chosen instrument to take my message to the Gentiles and to the kings, as well as to the people of Israel. God's challenge comes out of 1 Corinthians 4 and 5. Be careful not to jump to conclusions before the Lord returns as to whether or not someone is faithful. When the Lord comes, he will bring our deepest secrets to light and will reveal our private motives. So, assumptions today. What happens when we jump to the wrong conclusions? So, I hope something that read today, something inspired you today to not assume, not to jump to conclusions. I'm reading I have another book, another devotional, and we're talking about the every day. Here's a different topic every day. Today's topic is the darkest hour. You are not your pain. Pain doesn't define you. You define you. It won't always be easy, but know that pain is a valuable lesson needed for you to grow to the next level. In that hurt, in that hurt, in that hurt is an opportunity for you to dig deep and learn exactly who you are and what you want. Oh no, this is not the end for you. It's only the beginning. This is the beginning of something with the potential to be great. In your lowest time, you have the potential to rise to your highest peak. During your time of weakness, you will be made stronger than before. It may have temporarily held you back, but it underestimated just who you were. This matter, this minor setback will be the catalyst that slingshots you further than you ever thought possible. Your darkest hour will reveal the brightest light that will lead you to the best of life waiting for you. So just know that your darkest hour will reveal the brightest light that will lead you to the best life waiting for you. Don't make assumptions and don't come to your own conclusions. Allow God to help you. I'm reading another book called from Damian Lewis called Call Me First, a man's blueprint for true leadership at home. I'm on chapter 14 of he has in his book he has about 17 chapters. Today I'm on chapter 14, The Power of Purpose. Do you know why you're doing all this? I mean seriously. Why are you grinding? Why are you trying to build something bigger than yourself? What's the real reason you're waking up every day and pushing through when life feels heavy? Because if you don't know why, you're not really leading, you're just moving. I've been there. I've had seasons of my life where I was moving so fast but going nowhere. Busy as hell, working like a machine, hustling for the sake of hustling because that's what I thought men were supposed to do. Then one day it hit me. I was running on autopilot and my family was following me straight into a wall. A lot of men confuse busy with building. They think because they're busy all day, they're productive. They think because they're exhausted, they're doing something meaningful. But the most dangerous trap for a man is to wake up every day, kill himself with work, and still not be the leader he should be. That's not leadership. That's autopilot. And autopilot kills more dreams than failure ever will. Most men don't lack motivation. Most men don't lack hustle. They lack direction. They're doing a lot, but for what? If you're chasing money but don't know why, you'll never have enough. If you're chasing status but don't know why, you'll never feel satisfied. If you're just going through life saying yes to whatever opportunity pops up, but you're not filtering through your purpose, you're just staying busy, you're not building legacy, you're just building exhaustion. For years, I chased success without ever defining what success meant to me. And when you do that, you wake up one day and realize you've built a life that doesn't even feel like yours. That's why I had to sit down with myself and ask the hard question, what is the purpose? What is the purpose behind all of this? It's not about a catchy TikTok post. It's not about a t-shirt slogan or something you say to sound deep in conversation. Your purpose is the anchor that keeps you standing when life starts swinging. It's the thing that makes the pain make sense. Leadership hurts sometimes. Growth hurts sometimes. But when you know that, but when you know what your purpose is, you don't back down. you lean into it. If nobody was watching, what would you still fight for? If there was no applause, no likes, no validation, no good job, bruh, what would you still get up and grind for every day? Whatever that is, go after it. Unapologetically, stop at nothing. You don't need clout when you have purpose. You don't need anybody's approval. All you need is a decision. That's what separates leaders from followers. Leaders decide. You decide to do the research. You decide to find the answers. Stop waiting for people to clap for you. Stop expecting everybody to get it. They won't. You're trying to break cycles, and they're trying to survive the weekend. You're thinking about generational wealth, and they're thinking about next Friday's paycheck. You're talking about vision. They're talking about Netflix. That's okay. Your vision wasn't given to them, it was given to you. Sometimes the people closest to you will doubt you the most because your growth forces them to face their own action, their own inaction. I can't tell you how many times I shared my dreams and plans with people I loved, and they looked at me like I was crazy. Friends, family, coworkers doubted me. They tried to talk me out of it. They hit me with, be realistic. You know what I learned? It's not my job to convince them. It's my job to achieve my goals. Action first, applause later. When I started acting like a man with something to lose, excuse me, when I started acting like a man with something to lose, the way I approached my purpose and my decisions changed. I was no longer about the money, the house, or the job. I started living like a man who had to protect my name, my family, and my legacy. I stopped gambling with my life because I realized this wasn't just about me anymore. If you are having a hard time figuring out the purpose of your of all you're doing, I promise you, I promise you, I promise you, mm, I promise you, you can find it in the actual trenches of your life. First, identify your pain point. What keeps you up at night? What pisses you off about your current life? What are you sick and tired of living with? Your purpose is usually hiding under your deepest discomfort. Discomfort. For me, it was realizing my kids needed a leader, not just a provider. It was realizing I didn't want to leave them stuck in the same cycles I grew up in. That pain became my purpose. Next, think about who you're doing it for. Purpose ain't selfish. Let me say that again. Purpose ain't selfish. A man without people to protect usually doesn't move with urgency. So ask yourself, who am I doing this for? It could be your kids, your wife, your future grandkids, or even your inner child. Pick your people and then fight for them. Lastly, try to envision the man you refuse to be. Sometimes you don't know exactly who you want to become yet, but you damn sure know who you don't want to be. Draw a line in the sand. Say to yourself, I refuse to be a broke man, a bitter man, a lazy man, or a man my kids can't respect. When your purpose is strong enough, your excuses will embarrass you. Once you bring clarity to your purpose, you will stop being distracted by things that don't fit. You will stop chasing every opportunity. You will stop saying yes to every event. You will stop apologizing for protecting your time. You will stop negotiating with your own standards because you're not just doing things anymore. You're building something. You're not just grinding for the sake of grinding. You're growing for the sake of legacy. That's different. Leadership is heavy sometimes. It's lonely sometimes, but it's almost the most meaningful thing you'll ever do. Because when you lead with purpose, you don't just change your life, but the lives of everyone connected to you. That's why this chapter matters. That's why this book exists. That's why Call Me First is not just a podcast. It's a mission. I'm not perfect, neither are you, but together we can become the kind of men who lead with clarity, with conviction, and who leave a blueprint our families can build on. So stop waiting. Lead like a man who knows his purpose, like your kids. Lead like your kids are watching because they are. Lead like your legacy depends on it because it does. And the next time life gets loud, pressure starts building, and the storms roll in, look at your family and say, Call me first. Mm, that's powerful. Call me first. Mm, the power of purpose. Mm, mm. Really good read. Really good read. It's by Damian Lewis. So I encourage you to go out and look up that book. You know, yeah, it's very powerful. Every chapter. I'm up to chapter now 15, and now I read the 14 chapters. Have been really empowering, really encouraging to my soul. Really speaking to me. Some of the chapters, some of the other chapters that he has in the book. Chapter one was the leader you want to be starts with what you must let go. Grow up or give up. Let me read that to you. Let me read chapter one to you. Since I just finished 14 talking about the power of purpose. But let me go to chapter one. And it's titled The Leader You Want to Be Starts with You, What You Must Let Go. You don't just wake up one day and become a leader, especially not the kind your family respects. Your woman, your woman trusts, or your kids want to follow. Leadership, leadership isn't a title; it's a lifestyle. Let me say that again. Leadership isn't a title; it's a lifestyle. And believe me when I say I had to unlearn a whole lot of what I thought a man was before I could figure out how to lead like one. For a long time, I thought I thought being a man meant staying guarded, never showing weakness, never letting anybody get too close. That mindset came from how I was raised and what I saw. You learn to survive, not to feel. You're taught to keep your emotions tucked away. I didn't show up in a house where leadership was explained to me. Nobody taught me how to be disciplined enough to manage my emotions or to lead with intention. I did what I thought was necessary to survive. I felt pressure and immediately saw aggression, survival. and frustration. I thought growing, I thought controlling everything made me a man. Unfortunately, like a lot of other men I know, I interpreted that as normal. I can admit to you that it worked. I can admit to you that it worked, but it didn't work consistently. I only proved to be best when I needed a quick reference or when disrespect had to be handled in the moment. It worked when I needed to show everyone that I wasn't the one to be played with. But in a home, in a marriage, in fatherhood, that version didn't hold up at all. Please don't get it misunderstood. Peace isn't weakness. Peace isn't weakness. Being calm under pressure isn't soft. It's actually a mark of real strength. You can't bully your way into respect. You have to earn it. You can't bulldozer your way into trust. You have to cultivate it. There's just no way you can expect to build a legacy with people who are walking on eggshells around you. I got praised for being the one who kept things together, the one who stayed tough. But nobody told me that being emotionally unavailable would make it hard to connect with the people who needed me the most. Nobody warned me that I'll carry that same survival instinct into relationships and fatherhood, and that it would slowly tear things apart. I had to unlearn that. You see, unlearning is harder than learning. Unlearning is harder than learning because when you're learning something new, you know you're starting fresh. But when you're unlearning, you have to tear down what you built and admit that the foundation wasn't solid to begin with. And if nobody ever told you that, let me be the first to say your leadership begins when you stop reacting like a boy and start responding like a man. You don't become a strong man by adding more. You become strong by letting go of the lies that never served you in the first place. That shift right there, that shift right there, that's where everything changes. Early on, I thought I was leading. I was paying bills. I was showing up. I was present. But emotionally, I was still a boy, reacting to everything around me. I was very quick to defend myself and extremely slow to listen. I wanted to be respected, but I didn't know how to earn it without demanding it. I thought love was enough to carry a relationship, but I didn't understand that leadership means carrying weight, not just feelings. I had to face the truth. I wasn't really leading. I was controlling. I was defensive. I was inconsistent. That realization didn't come overnight. It came through mistakes and misunderstandings, through watching the people I love pull away emotionally without knowing why. If you're in that space now, don't ignore it. The moment you notice your woman going quiet, no arguing, no yelling, just quiet, you better pay attention. That silence isn't peace, it's distance. And your kids, they don't care what car you drive. They care if you remember what time practice starts. They care if you showed up to the game, if you help with homework, if you sit and you just be there. That's leadership. If you got kids watching you right now, please understand you're the first example of a man they've ever they're they've they're they are ever know. They don't just learn from what you say, but also how you move. They pay attention to how you interact with their mother and how you treat strangers. They absorb your mannerisms when you're angry. They take note of how you handle the pressure when the world when the world as they know it is seemingly falling apart. They are always watching, and whether you like it or not, your habits become your default settings. If we don't change our blueprint, we hand them the same broken tools we were given. And truthfully, some of us weren't handed anything at all. We had to guess what leadership looked like. But what if we stopped guessing? What if we stopped surviving and start building? What if we stopped trying to be the man our boys in the street respect and chose to become the man our son wants to become and our daughter knows she can trust? That's what this is about. Most of us quit the moment things get uncomfortable, not because we're weak or lazy, but because nobody taught us how to push through emotional pain. We were taught to keep working, keep grinding, and hide our emotional struggles from everyone, including ourselves. So the moment a conversation starts to dig deep, excuse me, so the moment a conversation starts to dig beneath the surface, we freeze. The moment a woman says, we need to talk, we shut down. The moment our child says, you weren't there, we defend ourselves instead of listening. And that's the root of the problem. The truth is, at some point, if and when you decide to make a change and start improving your relationship with yourself first and then the people around you, you will need to take accountability for the roles you played. Then and only then can you do things differently. I can help you do exactly that. Everything you are about to read is real. These are not theories or empty ideals. These are the lessons I learned through the battles I fought and the mistakes I had to learn from the hard way. I know where you are because I have been there. I know the pressure you feel because I have carried it. I know the frustration because I lived it. And I also know the way through because I made it out. And I am giving you the way in these pages. Before you worry about being a good leader, you have to learn how to master every part of yourself first. Each thought, each emotion, each reaction. Believe me when I say nobody is going to follow a man who can't lead himself. People can feel when you're faking it. Your friends and your family know when you're mentally checked out or emotionally unavailable. But if you keep following the lessons in this book, if you lean into the process and actually apply what you learn, you will come out stronger. You will come out wiser. You will come out as a man your family can respect and trust. You don't have to have all the answers. You just have to be willing to learn. You don't have to carry everything. You just have to stop dropping what matters most. And if you've dropped the ball before, that's okay. I've dropped it plenty of times. What matters is whether you pick it back up and let your pride block your progress. Follow the stories, follow the plans, take in the lessons. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, and it is brighter than you think. This book is written for the man who wants to change but does not know how. If that is you, you are in the right place. And if you are ready, this will be the turning point. Mm. Words to live by. Mm. So I encourage you to pick up Damian Lewis's book, Call Me First, A Man's Blueprint for True Leadership at Home. It's been really beneficial, really educational to me. As I read this book every day, I'm reading a chapter a day in this book, and and it talks about it goes even further. The different topic headings of, you know, chapter 2 is grow up or give up. Chapter 3 is when you decide your family deserves better. Chapter 4, what being a husband would demand from you. So that's the chapter I worked on. I'm working with. The growth you're after won't come without correction. If you don't lead, who would they follow? The echo of you, the version of you that changes everything. Protect your peace or lose everything you're building. You can't cheat discipline. Your health is your leadership. Life will fall apart. Here is what to do when it does. How much control have you already given away? Like we read today, the power of purpose. And then chapter 15, leading through conflict. Chapter 16, the leadership currency, respect, boundaries, and standing firm. Chapter 17, what will they say about you? So, Damian Lewis's book, Call Me First, A Man's Blueprint for True Leadership at Home. Or Anthony Brice has a book called Pour Me to Rich Soul, where I read about the darkest hour. Your darkest hour will reveal the brightest light that will lead you to the best of life waiting for you. That's Anthony Brice, Pour Me to Rich Soul. Really good read, really good read, really good read. So I encourage you to go out today. If you're an avid reader like me and read is your thing, pick up the book. Even if reading is not your thing, but it's very short reads, it's short, easy devotionals that you can focus in on today on. So I like to say, I hope something that I read was encouraging to you. I'm currently working on one of the books I'm working on is called Dangerous Jesus. Why the only thing more risky than getting Jesus right is getting Jesus wrong, by Kevin K.B. Burgess. You know, he has he has 12 chapters that I'm working on. And the group that I'm with, the King's movement, I'm with King's movement. And we have a book club. We do a monthly book club, and this is one of the books that we're working on. It's been really a very good read. You know, and it's 12 chapters, and it talks about the dangerous Jesus, the dangerous faith, the dangerous gospel, the dangerous citizen, the dangerous justice, the dangerous love, the dangerous friendships, the dangerous blessings, today I'm working on dangerous joy. Chapter 10 is the dangerous speech. Chapter 11 is dangerous of spirit. Chapter 12, the dangerous Christian. So today's read is out of dangerous called chapter 9, dangerous joy. The the theme of the book is my wife happy. Jesus loved me. Ain't nothing like left to conform to. No chains. Before I met Jesus, you couldn't convince me that God wasn't boring and that Jesus didn't drain all the fun out of life. Every time I walked into the sanctuary of a church, it felt like the spirit of NyQuil would attack me. It was almost as if the preaching helped me sleep better. Even the cool Christian stuff for young people was annoying. It was like, look, we are fun. We have pizza parties, PG movies, and Christian versions of everything in the world. Try this can of spirit. It tastes like Sprite. Yeah, miss me with that. But when the Lord opened my eyes to his glory, power, and goodness, I quickly realized that the competitive edge for Christianity was not the cool stuff, it was God. It always has been. I just didn't see it. It's like a blind man complaining that he's bored in the Sistine Chapel. There's nothing wrong with the art. He just can't see it. If he could, he wouldn't be able to look away. I recall something that happened in Chicago a few years ago. I love deep dish pizza. So whenever we're in the Windy City, we go to Lou McNally's. That's not product placement. I just really love that place. I was excited to give a few deep dish pizzas for the whole band, and they loved every bite, with the exception of my road manager. Upon tasting this gift from God, baked to holy perfection, the gentleman said, "This is pretty good, but it's no Little Caesars." I one kid, I one kid you I kid you not. I was on the phone with my wife at the time, and as soon as he said, I was like, "Babe, I got to call you back." I hung up the phone. I hung up the phone and said, "What did you just say?" He looked at the pizza, then he looked up at me and said, "It's good, but it's no Little Caesars." For me, that's Pizza Hut. I'm sorry. After deciding after deciding that firing him on the spot would be inappropriate, I said to him, "Listen, brother, the problem is not the pizza. The problem is your taste buds." There has never been a lack of deficiency in the flavor of experiencing God. We just lack the taste buds to savor his goodness. I remember the time I met NBA superstar Steph Curry. I was doing a concert in the Bay Area with my friend Trip Lee, and Steph came to the show. Not only did I not know who he was dressed almost exactly like the security guards walking the venue. So when I saw him standing there all alone, I walked right up and patted him on the shoulder and said, "God bless and thanks for helping us out." Then I went about my day. Now I try to treat everyone the same, but giving honor where honor is due requires recognizing who you are dealing with. And if you are ignorant about who someone is, you won't honor them the way you should. So it was with God. So it is with God. To be to be unimpressed with God is to be ignorant of who he is. Full stop. God is the originator and sustainer of all things true, good, and beautiful. If something is good, it is borrowed from God. From marriage to mangoes, fatherhood to fashion, fish to finance, though the level of importance may vary, all these things are breadcrumbs rolling off the very table of the living God. Randy Acorn, in his book Heaven, writes, "Our desire for pleasure and the experience of joy comes directly from God's hand. He made our taste buds, adrenaline, sex drives, and the nerve endings that convey pleasure to our brains. Likewise, our imaginations and our capacity for joy and exhilaration were made by the very God we accuse of being boring. That this is why it bothers me so much that Christianity is often known as the religion of killjoy, as if God filled the world as if God filled the world with all kinds of pleasures for everyone except his people to enjoy. If I can tip my hand a little, that is nonsense. If through if 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 apathetic, I can't say that word. Apathetically, not the Christianity of Christ. What we find in the living God is not the end of happiness, but the source of happiness. Likewise, the Christianity of Christ does not prohibit us from enjoying our lives. It is indeed the best way to enjoy our lives. If we don't see God in a good state, if we don't see God in an enjoyable evening with our family and friends, if we don't see God in the smile of someone we love, if we don't see God in the moments of beauty, then we don't understand God. All or nothing. Not long after I accepted Christ, I broke up with my high school sweetheart, stopped hanging out with a lot of my old friends. I even stopped listening to mainstream hip hop. I didn't want to listen to anything that wasn't nourishing my soul. If it didn't bring me closer to God, it was not welcome on my playlist. There was a lot of value in that, especially early in my walk, but I started slipping to extremes. I started studying the history of the persecuted church and felt as though I needed a harder life to be more authentic. I swung hardcore into what is known as poverty theology, where I found virtue in being nothing and having nothing. I read the excellent Fox's book of Mars, subscribed to the powerful voice of the Mars magazine, and committed myself to joining the fellowship of suffering. Even if I had to endure that suffering, I literally fasted twice a week for months, which is not necessarily bad, but I kept a box of cookies close by to make it harder for myself. I think a lot of people have that experience when they first become Christians. For the rich young ruler to follow Jesus, it meant giving up his many possessions. There is value in considering how I might part with things that define me before to prove that these things don't have power over me. Because I have a new Lord now, I do anything for him. While I did go while I did go through that, I did it joyfully, and God would often meet me in my overzealousness. I would read the Bible for 4, sometimes 5 hours a day. I cherish those times, but as I matured in my faith, I came to realize that that I could enjoy God not only in His Word, but in His world as well. One of the greatest threats to the Christianity of Christ is the misguided belief that following Jesus means giving up every conceivable earthly pleasure in the name of piety. The problem with that is that too often people believe that not only should we be resisting evil, we should equally be resisting good. Though there is great power in controlling our appetites, giving up the good things we enjoy does not always equal nearness to God. I've spent a lot of time in this book talking about decentering self, but I do not want to overlook God's call to be instructed on how to love your neighbor by considering the way you love yourself. Self love is good as long as it doesn't stop at self or permit the evil that self might desire. If in the name of love, in if in the name of loving God we refuse to love ourselves by enjoying good things, we are literally cutting ourselves off from a whole world of experiences that were meant to nourish our faith and increase our love for God. The problem with the Christianity of the land is that it cares more about presentation than it does about transformation. You've got folks that don't drink, don't curse, don't club, but they also don't love. Self denial has an important place in the Christianity of Christ, but never forget that the Garden of Eden had a single tree that was off limits, just one among what would have been thousands. I'm convinced there is always more to enjoy than there is to deny. That said, are there certain songs we shouldn't listen to and certain movies we shouldn't watch? Certainly. But when you're in a transformative relationship with God, not listening to certain songs or watching certain shows is not about killing your joy. It's about protecting it. Furthermore, our enjoyment of the arts will vary from believer to believer, depending on how your conscience alerts us in the moment. There is wisdom in not first asking, is this Christian? But rather it is good, but it is it good, and does this threaten my joy in Jesus? So while there is merit in not drowning ourselves in the pursuit of decadence, we don't have to live under a bridge and beat ourselves with a stick every day. As A.W. Tozer said, the people of God ought to be the happiest people in all the wide world. People should be coming to us constantly and asking the source of our joy and delight. Take Solomon, for example. Everything is meaningless. The book of Ecclesiastes has a reputation as a kind of a downer. Solomon starts with the following assessment of the world. Everything is meaningless, completely meaningless. Yeah, that's pretty bleak. He he then goes on to compare the pleasures of creation to the act of grabbing a handful of water and watching as it seeps watch it seeps through your fingers. The longer you hold it, the less you have. The pursuit of success, accomplishments, and wealth are all, according to Solomon, as fruitful as chasing the wind. It is easy to take Solomon's words as a condemnation of the pleasures of life money, food, drink, entertainment, and the committed pursuit of enjoying life. He assumes all he assumes all are a waste of time at best. Likewise, many preachers spend the majority of their time spending caution tape around these areas, telling folks to stay away. On some level, this motivation is justifiable, especially concerning how often many of these things are abused. Sadly, part of our fallen condition is our reconcil, recalcitrance toward moderation. And then there is sin. Human nature often compels us to want the very things we should for our own good and avoid. A closer look at the Hebrew text, however, puts to a far less take on the subject. The Hebrew word translated meaningless or futile or vital, vanity, is hebel, Hebel, which literally means smoke or vapor, that which dissipates easily. It is like breath, here for a moment, then quickly gone. James, for example, tells us that our lives are a vapor that appears for a little while, then vanishes. And David proclaims that a human is like a breath. His days are like a passing shadow, but that is not a pronouncement of the meaninglessness of a human life. This is scripture speaking to the limits of things. It is not, however, speaking to their usefulness. If a hammer is the only thing you have to build a house, your efforts will be futile because you need much more than that. But you will be hard pressed to get the job done with with no hammer at all. The Bible places everything against a backdrop of eternity, making all of life and its contents monetarily and transcend, but that does not at all suggest that life and its contents are devoid of purpose, meaning, and grace. If we run with a careless reading of Solomon's proclamation, we create the kind of Christian who define spiritual engagements with God as denying the natural world, where God's presence stops at the door of the earthly. Anything not strictly devotional becomes either tolerant or hate, making God the enemy of living a little, because he would rather have us fasting and praying. This, by the way, is precisely the reason Christians authored thousands of books on the spiritual disciplines of prayer and fasting, Bible reading and Bible reading and church fellowship, which are immensely important, but far fewer on the discipline of enjoying the life God gave you. So I'm gonna stop right there and encourage you. I hope something that I read was encouraging to you. And as you go about the day, just know that God has your best interest, that you are good enough, that you're more than enough. The dangers of joy.